Hello and welcome to this edition of Community Voices Uganda on Civic Space TV. I am Phillip, Muliisa. On this episode, we talk about infrastructure, and specifically we talk about Karuma Bridge. We know that very important piece of infrastructure that connects parts of northern Uganda to now this what I can call south, though in terms of direct directions you might not have only south, it also goes along with continuing to other parts of the country. And we know currently that bridge is closed under maintenance by the Ugandan National Roads Authority. We want to assess what that means for the community, the impact it has, and how people are trying to navigate through those challenges, opportunities that may arise in that situation. On this episode, I host the Honorable Lyandro Komakech. Honorable Komakech is the former Member of Parliament for Gulu Municipality. Honorable, greetings and you're welcome to the show. Honorable Komakech, you're welcome and we're happy to have you. Say hello to us. You unmute and talk to us.
So good morning, everybody. And I salute all of you that I can take view of this morning. Of course, our moderator, and then my young man, Democrat, Councillor Otim, and all the viewers at a global level. Yes.
Thank you so much, Honorable Komakech, and indeed we're happy to have you and we can't wait to share with you and hear what you have for us in terms of that particular situation in that beautiful part of the country. The other guest is Mr. Otim Francis. Mr. Otim is the City Division Councillor for Kirombe Ward, that is Bardege Layibi City Division. Francis, greetings, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, moderator. My name is Francis Otim, and I represent the people of Kirombe Ward. It's really a great privilege today to share a panel with my mentor, the Honorable Lyandro Komakech, whom I strongly regard as the best legislator Uganda has ever had since 1962. So the Karuma Bridge issue is of great concern, not only to we the people coming from northern Uganda, but for the entire country, and also I would say even for the entire region. So it's a issue that is very important and which I believe we shall passionately articulate. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Otim Francis. It's good to note that Honorable Lyandro means that much to yourself, and rarely do we give people their flowers where they're still alive. So when you do it, when he's just there looking at you and listening to you, it means a lot for him, but also the people that watch to know his contribution to this country and indeed the world at large. Thank you so much. Later in the conversation, we should be joined by Mr. Richard Drasimaku, and we hope he can join us in time. There have been some technical issues he's trying to address, and we expect him to join us. I want to start with you, Honorable Komakech. You represented the people of Gulu Municipality.
Yes, please.
How important was Karuma Bridge to the people in Gulu Municipality and by extension the entire northern Uganda?
Well, the network is poor on my side, but I'll see what to do. If it continues, I will switch and use my phone. All right? And I must say I'm so grateful to Civic Space TV for allowing me again to get back to share our views as pertains to many issues in this country. Now, the Karuma Bridge issue is very, very important. And if we are to contextualize, Karuma is a bridge that is over 61 years old. But the people of Bunyoro and the people of Acholi and Lango used to cross the river without a bridge. In the early times, they would wait all transport to Bunyoro in the early times used to be done during the dry season. Just in between Musician Falls and Karuma Bridge, there is a particular space where in the dry season, the rocks, the riverbed is very low, and the rocks, the protruding rocks allowed the communities to cross through leaping from one rock to the next, and they cross the river. That space, that portion is still there, can still be used during dry season for those who are working on food. That is what the Samuel Beck used during their exploration period. But of course, even the word Karuma, we need to know what it is. Karuma was mispronounced by the British wrongly. It is Karomo. Karomo in Luo and the Paluo language on this side of Bunyoro means where people meet. You know, that used to be a war zone. That area used to be a war zone. That were the battle of Abazasura with the Baganda and all these things, where the Luo supported Bunyoro, the Lango supported Bunyoro. So it has a lot of historical memories. But now we call it Karuma. It has no meaning if you call it that way. But if you call it Karumo, it makes a lot of meaning. And that is what its original meaning was. And of course, that area is said to have a lot of spiritual issues that involves it. So I don't need to deep into that, but those were areas where, you know, the Luos used to do their annual shrines and giving to the spirits and all these things. So it's quite a it's one of these that should be written. And adding to that, before I go to the bridge itself, when Kabalega, Kabaka Mwanga and Kabul were fought off by the British, they crossed the river, right?
My apologies out there. I think because of internet challenges, the Honorable Komakech has been disconnected, but we should have him join us back real quick. As we wait for Honorable Komakech to reconnect and continue with his submission, I welcome Richard Drasimaku. Richard, greetings. You're most welcome. We're happy to have you. Richard, if you can talk to us, just hello, you're welcome.
Yes, good morning, sir. Are you able to pick me up?
Yes, I can hear you. And
yeah, I'm having some network challenges here.
all right, but it's good you're finally here, and it's good that Honorable Komakech is finally back. Honorable, are you able to hear me now? Let's wait for Honorable to reconnect and get comfortable with his with the technology, and we shall have him continue his submission as he joins us. As he comes back, I want to pick from you, Francis. Francis, you come from Layibi. What can you attest as the significance of Karuma Bridge to the people you lead, but also the entire district and region?
Yeah, thank you very much, my brother, our moderator, for this discussion. I come from Bardege, Layibi, and Bardege, Layibi is one of the two city divisions in Gulu City, and Gulu City is a business center for majorly northern Uganda. So Karuma Bridge is of significant importance because it's the major route that our businessmen use to transport their goods. So its closure means that the transport costs are going to go high, and obviously it will also translate into the prices of these products also going high. So as I speak now, the prices of products, goods and services in the city have risen up because because those days when the bridge was still operational, to move from Gulu to Kampala, you needed only 40,000 Uganda shillings. But right now, with the closure of the bridge, we are now parting with 55,000 Uganda shillings. That means that the price of transport has shot up by 15,000 Uganda shillings. So it tells you that we are paying an extra cost of 15,000 Uganda shillings. And that tells you that it's not easy for we people who are coming to Kampala or want to access Kampala for different services, or even to our business people who come and majorly buy things from Kampala and then go and sell them up country. So the prices have dramatically gone high. Secondly, I want to say that it's on record that northern Uganda is the poorest, according to the UBO statistics, at about 68%. But specifically, Acholi sub-region is at 74%. So this is a region which is vulnerable, and yet it's again experiencing an extra burden. For example, in Gulu, on average, we have 10 buses that move from Gulu to Kampala. So on average, we have like 60 passengers. So if you have to multiply 60 passengers by 15 people, that is about 900,000. So 900,000, if you multiply it by 10 buses, that means 9 million. So 9 million, if you multiply it by the 3 months that Karuma Bridge is going to be closed, that goes to about 270 million. So imagine a region that is poor, a region that is lagging behind, losing 270 millions just because the government did not think of an alternative to Karuma Bridge. And it's on record, as Honorable Lyandro said, that Karuma Bridge was constructed in the year 1963. Up to now, as a country, we were just there, and we never cared that maybe one day this Karuma Bridge will get issues. So just know that the economy of northern Uganda is greatly affected. And this is not a northern Uganda issue. This is a national issue, because we have a number of businessmen moving from Western Uganda, Central Uganda, Eastern, using that particular route. And even with the alternative routes that they have given us, thanks to our members of parliament who have voiced up the issue of the charges that are being levied at Maxition Park. The other day, I traveled from Gulu to Kampala. I started my journey at 2 p.m. and I reached Kampala at midnight. So imagine, almost 12 hours on the road. So what does that mean to our business people? So the issue of Karuma Bridge is really, really, really pressing us. And
thank you, Mr. Tim, for that. It's good you raised very powerful points there, among them being the major transit route for business between northern Uganda and central, and indeed any other parts of the country, but also talking about the day-to-day crossings of ordinary individuals and a couple of other situations. Honorable, it's good you are back. If you can hear me, please take it up and conclude on what you are giving us.
Well, I'm sorry for this technical itch. You know, the university sometimes has some of these challenges. I'm here in Makerere University. Now, I was on the issue of giving you the background to Karuma and how this road is very important, the bridge. Well, in the early past, just picking it as a footnote from what Otim was raising, you see.
Again, my apologies. Honorable has a couple of technical challenges, but we are going to have him back. Mr. Drasimaku, you're welcome.
Yes,
In
thank
your
you.
view, how important is Mr. Drasimaku? You can hear me? Honorable is back.
Yes, I'm
No.
hearing you.
Let's try our best. I don't know by the end of the day. Let's just try. What I was saying is that Karuma Bridge is quite a very important strategic link that provides coordinated transportation from the south.
For the people of northern Uganda and indeed the country.
Yes. Now, I think it is imperative to contextualize the emerging challenges that that play today, because given the importance of Karuma Bridge, you know, in the early times we used to use the Lake Kyoga ferry, which used to take the 12 hours that Otim is saying. Now that Karuma Bridge was built, it shortened the distance in Palaba. It reduced the time spent on the way by almost 7 hours. So now you can averagely drive for 5 hours. For those who are too fast, for 4 hours. Those who are extraordinarily fast, 3 hours. So it has been boosting trade for northern Uganda and southern Sudan, and then of course the eastern DRC. And given what has happened, we have a lot of implications in terms of reduction in trade, and of course reduction also in transportation of passengers, and loss of revenue on all ends. So at the end of the day, the abrupt announcement of Karuma Bridge itself brought a very big indicators of poor planning, because that bridge was supposed to last 50 years, according to the Molem construction that did this bridge in 1961. The bridge was supposed to be renovated in 2013, 2013. Now look, from 2013, 2014, we have just been there up to 2024. You know, a lot of time has been wasted. And in terms of strategic engineering assessment, we only got to begin to see that the bridge was now having a problem when they started seeing the cracks. No, without that, I think we were still going to go ahead with this bridge until everybody collapses with its weight. Now,
and Honorable, what you mentioned is quite a serious issue. When you say that it should have lasted 50 years, and 10 years later, we have not done the maintenance and we are still using this bridge, that's a serious risk to people's lives.
It's an engineering lapse, which government of Uganda should own this responsibility, because to begin to reconstruct this bridge now, it is too late, and we are saying we are doing it in 3 months. 3 months, I do not know. It is still a wait and see situation. It is guesswork. We would want to see that the company that has been given to do this work do it perfectly. But to say that this bridge should be renovated, we should get a certificate of how long it will be used again. Because at a strategic level, we have integrated, South Sudan is part of East African Community. It's coming on board, right? DRC is already on board. There is even talk of Central African Republic. Now, all this weight is linked strategically through Karuma Bridge, of course, with others. But as at a geopolitical level, Karuma Bridge is so essential for all issues concerning the economy of these countries, the economy of northern Uganda. Now, when you look at the volume of traffic that goes through Karuma Bridge, which for long you have been seeing the trailers that go to Sudan, the trailers that go to DRC, and then our own that moves to West Nile, to Lang or Chole. I mean, it is heavy traffic. Therefore, I see it as one of the most serious strategic decisions that government of Uganda should not play around with. 3 months, we hope it is 3 months, and also the kind of what I would call the the quality of work that is going to be done in these 3 months should also be under very serious scrutiny. And this bridge as well, you should know that it also work alongside our military interests in the geopolitics of the country. This is the bridge that that is why you see deployments, military deployments all over the place there, because we also protect our international interests through Karuma Bridge. Anyone who removes Karuma Bridge by military force can walk to Kampala, you know? So that is why you saw during the Okelos and the Basilios and the Obotes, they told Obote that we are coming to Kampala in 24 hours. And they arrived because Karuma Bridge is a very vital strategic military asset to this country. And therefore, its presence is of vital interest to all our peace and security in the region. Now, you see that Karuma Bridge still also facilitates catalyzes the tourism industry. Beyond, for tourists that would want to go to Musician Falls, you either take Masindi side or you take the northern corridor, the Gulu Road, and then you are in the park, because that road passes through a game reserve, Karuma Game Reserve, and therefore its closure alone is amounting a lot of losses to many of the tourists that could have used that road to touch up to Chobe Safari Lodge, which is immediately after the bridge. Now you cannot drive to Chobe unless you drive through eastern Uganda or you drive through the other side of Muliisa. So I think we are dealing with a very serious hot potato that I thought government would have a very considerable understanding on how they juxtapose access in the meantime. How do we use it? Because there is already conflict between legislators, local communities, passengers, and HUA. Now, HUA finds itself into this thing because of poor planning of municipal works. So sometimes you may not blame our MPs, and you may not even blame HUA, but the resultant impact is not on both parties. So how do we address this situation?
Thank you, Honorable. And I think we're going to talk about the points of addressing a little later. I'm going to continue the conversation, but I want to thank you so much first for the historical perspective of this whole problem and trying to draw us to how it came about and what the lapses were that led us to this particular situation. Thank you so much, Honorable. I want to bring in Mr. Drasimaku here. Drasimaku, look, Honorable just told us this place should have been renovated in 2013 or 2014, and this is 10 years later without an address to the specific problem. First, what are your thoughts on the closure of the bridge? But two, what are some of the tangible benefits of this bridge you can point to, you as a resident of that particular area?
Yes, thank you very much, the moderator. I'm Richard Drasimaku. I'm a journalist. I'm based in Arua, but I am an editor for Kigezi News Agency because we cover the whole country. And Karuma Bridge is definitely very important to West Nile because that is the gateway to the region. And once it is off, like now it is been off, so the only alternative you can reach from West Nile to Kampala or from Kampala to West Nile easily is through the game park, the new route where you pass via Kafu, Masindi, then you merge at the Tangi Gate. But then the challenge has been that because of the diversions, extra costs have been imposed upon the travelers, especially the business community. Yesterday I was in a forum of business women in Arua, market vendors, and this was one of the issues they even pointed out, because they have been told to pay extra 25,000 on their cargo trucks transiting from Kampala this way. So that means an increased cost, and those costs they get transferred onto the consumers through price hikes. So that is one challenge in that area. And you remember recently MPs from this region, they actually protested over the closure of this bridge, because it was not well planned. The government has been aware that the bridge has these problems and it is the only gateway, but there was no plan for a second bridge in that area. I think that's something which should have been thought about. Although I was informed that there are some plans to construct another bridge there, which plan is yet not actualized as of now. So, and because you're passing through the game park, the main game park, there is that risk of coming into contact with the wildlife and a risk of accidents. So because of that, the time of travel has been restricted. You cannot enter into the park when it is already 7. So you reach there, you're parked at the gate the whole night, and then you start the journey the following morning from 7. So that again imposes restriction upon the travelers, and the people who use this bridge are not just West Nile, because the business community, they come from DRC, Eastern DRC. So that means the entire, our neighborhood here is affected. South Sudan is affected because that is a major transit point. So the impact on the business is immense. But I know these 3 months, I'm hopeful that they might stick to that time span. But if they don't stick to it, what happens? That means more misunderstandings and more losses on the side of the business community. And for those who are traveling, you waste more time. Just from Kampala a few days ago, I think 3 days ago, and that's what I experienced. I went from here, I slept at Komakech, then you cross the game park, you reach Kampala late, coming back, you also come and sleep in Masindi, and then you cross, and so a lot of time is wasted on the road. So I think the issue of planning was key, but it was not really properly catered for. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Richard, for that submission, and it's a rather powerful one. Francis, earlier you mentioned that, and indeed Richard has mentioned, you've been in Kampala quite recently, and please take me through what it means now to travel from that part of the country to the center here and going back, and talking to me especially the nature of the infrastructure there. Do we have well-paved roads in that alternative route that was created, but also some of the challenges that arise in that particular route that you use now, the option you have because you cannot use Karuma?
Yeah, thank you very much. The alternative route that the government has given us to use, I want to speak majorly on the one that passes through the Maxishon Falls game park. The biggest challenge is the distance. The distance is too long and you spend a lot of time on the way. And also, secondly, since you pass through the park, it means that the park has a speed limit. You have to drive at a certain speed, so automatically the journey is longer than we had anticipated. Then the second thing is issues of network. There are some points along that road you don't have access to internet, you don't have a network. So I imagine that maybe a bus gets a mechanical problem in the middle of the park. What does that mean? If you don't have the network, how will you communicate to the rangers? So that is another issue. But on the infrastructure is good. The roads are good. There's no problem with the road passing through the park. The other alternative route that from Apache, then you use the ferry. That route, yes, it's not in all, the condition is not all that good, but also the ferries that are there are few. I think we have about 2 to 3 ferries there. And their mechanical conditions and they are not in good mechanical conditions. So that is one area that also the government should look at, that these ferries need to, if maybe there is a possibility of adding more ferries, well and good. And also this one that we have, yes, they should see that they have their in good mechanical condition. And that road, the going to from Apache, that route of Apache, yes, at least it should be what? It should be worked on. Then also, you know, Gulu airstrip has the longest runway in the country. So I think this is the right moment for government, for Uganda Airlines to consider starting having flights to northern Uganda. I have ever been to the airstrip in Arua. It's also good. So I think for the issues of especially business, we can have these cargo planes helping our business people to what? To transport their goods through air to the region. And I think it will be so helpful. And I think there's nothing that can stop us from doing this, because we have the infrastructure and the security, the peace. There's already peace. The government has labored, we don't have peace. So there's no panic that maybe a plane might be brought down or what. So having at least a flight to Gulu will also help our passengers, and especially our people doing business, cargo planes to carry their goods. And yeah, it will help a lot to save on time. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Francis, and that's rather a very good idea you talk about there. I want to go back to Honorable Komakech. Honorable, like earlier you talked about issues to do with poor planning and so on. And look, with the background of a recent crisis in the country, you know, just here in Kampala at Chitezi, recently a garbage pool at a dumping site slid into people's homes. It killed, police has confirmed they have exhumed at least 35 bodies, but the estimate is between 96 to 105 people that were killed by that particular tragedy. And we know over 300 were displaced, millions of shillings worth of property destroyed, people had to be shifted. It's a crisis that points to planning. And here too, you talk about the planning. What is your assessment of the sustainability policy of our country, especially for infrastructure, like we talk about Karuma Bridge now, but we could be having other infrastructure, you know, assets across the country that are at the verge of getting into the same crisis. Honorable.
Yeah, thank you so much, Philip. I think beyond or what we call post-Karuma crisis, and of course citing examples of Chitezi. Chitezi is a glaring indicator of how KCC authorities were actually not focused at what they're supposed to do. It is so amazing that you have, you know, huge amount of wastage, which can be used for actually very important industrial raw materials that can produce so many good things. I do not know why we cannot pick examples of the benchmarkings we do. You know, in this country, it is so funny. You find everybody flying out of the country that we are going to study the good practices of particular things. Now, if you went to Norway, if you went to Australia, if you went to many of these places where waste is a very important source for industrial raw materials that generates actually one of the best electricity. You know, actually Kampala would be recycling its waste to generate power for itself and leave power consumption from the hydros to other industrial complexes. That is what planning is all about. So the challenge possibly for us is about occupying of big offices and the feeling of it, and you know, takes all our time. So I do not know what magic we shall do. Of course, Frank has been appointed. I know Frank, a product of Yale University, is quite prolific. He understands He has lived in the US. He knows how important to run a city. We hope possibly through him he could do it, because all over, you look at all over Uganda, those who would want to be managers of our cities, of our towns, are people with no experience. They have not traveled beyond their villages, but they want to run very sophisticated urban authorities. So the ball is on our court. How do we get back to the drawing board for government of Uganda to begin to reflect on the growing capacity of urbanization in this country? Because when you look at urbanization and the speed at which it is moving, we shall be overwhelmed by this speed. So I think we should take note that since we have a whole ministry of urban planning, I think the ministry is there. And I don't know what they do there, apart from going every year to Parliament to put their budgets. The budget should be seen in terms of their capacities to perform. Because if budgetary allocations are made and then at the end of the day, it is just for mere window dressing, it doesn't make sense. So for us, the challenge is we should now turn off our attention from this bickering between the legislators and UA. It is a very, actually, it is completely misleading. The real people who attention should be focused at are just there quiet. We need to agree at a minimum level for a stakeholders meeting to be called, I don't know, by either Speaker of Parliament or the President himself, so that we have a constructive engagement that first resolves the issue of the 3 months that we are going to use in the meantime, as we move towards having a very lasting solution. I have heard through rumors, I don't know how true it is, that there is plan to construct a new bridge in Karuma by the Japanese company, the JICA. And if it bears fruit, I think that would be our best bet, because they say it may start in 2027 and it may take like 4 years to build. And high bridge that you just drive through at a normal speed of 70 to 80 kilometers, which would pass actually above the terrain. You do not need to slope towards the water. It just goes up across that place. So there are a lot of challenges we need to look at. The Ministry of Works should be put on spotlight in Parliament. There should be a full debate, not only about Karuma Bridge, about many other bridges and other important road accesses in the country, so that one by one we get to know how this should be done. Because if we're going to pick Karuma and then it is ticked, and then we wait because we are used to disasters. If it occurs, then it's okay, let us respond. This is not acceptable. We have a government that is fully functional, and they have been given mandate to run the country. There is no excuse by any quarter that we are not performing our duty. They are well facilitated. All the budgets that are required are given by Parliament. So why is there this kind of challenge? And of course, at the end of the day, the access by HUA, I think, given the seriousness of this thing, there should be a total review. I know we may generate challenges with the wild animals that are in that conservation, because if they're called wild, they're wild. And if we overdrive there, we may even push them away. The elephants will find themselves walking into Gulu. The elephants will find themselves walking into Pakwach. So all these are challenges. So I think there should be a middle ground that should be agreed by legislators, by the executive of this country, that in the meantime, what is the best way forward? For me, that is what I'm looking at. I do not agree that we should be picking quarrels. We should be on policy discussion. How do we reduce the threats that have been posed because of our negligence not to respond to what engineers by then, the Molem construction engineers of the 1960s did? We are just waking up today and beginning to say, okay. So I don't think we should be running a government like this. We have fully fledged people who are appointed in their portfolios that should be, qualified enough to do what they're supposed to do as national duty.
Thank you so much, Honorable Komakech, for that. And indeed, I think the country is listening and they should be able to pick up some of those things and they act upon them. Francis, earlier you talked about inflation and you are specific to the increase in transport fares. You did mention, if I quoted your figure as well, that back before the closure, you used to spend about 40,000 Uganda shillings on transport from Gulu to Kampala, and today it is up to 55,000. Talk to me about the situation in the market. When you go down to the market, especially on items that are transited through the bridge to from different parts of the country, but also to how are the prices like, and would you say that this closure has affected the prices of individual commodities in Gulu and indeed the entire region?
Yeah, thank you very much, moderator. There's already a very big problem in terms of price fluctuations. Prices have gone high just because the transport costs are high, and also we are now experiencing scarcity of certain goods in the market. So automatically, my basic commerce tells me that the lower the supply, when there is low supply, it means there is high demand, and that means that there will be what increase in price. Yeah. So life in Gulu has not been easy even earlier, but now with the closure of Karuma Bridge, the prices are even spiked. Because I want to say that most of our products, most of our goods, we get them from the Matokes, we get them from Central Uganda and Western Uganda, and also Mbale. Mbale brings for us onions, and majorly these are regions that supply the what? These are regions that supply the city. So it means that we are being now affected at household level. Secondly, I want to really agree with the Honorable Lyandro's submission on the quality. For me, I want to put it on the quality of our leadership. You see, in our parliament today, we don't have very proactive and robust leaders like the Honorable Lyandro, because most of these issues should be articulated on the floor of parliament. But you realize that these issues have never been spoken on the floor of parliament. It is until now, when we have the problem, that legislators are trying now to take political advantage out of this issue. What I think is very important, because I think especially for the business people who do business in northern Uganda, not necessarily people from northern Uganda, but people who do business in northern Uganda. For me, I think we should have a committee to handle the Karuma crisis in an economic perspective. For me, I expect the government to give subsidies, fuel subsidies, to people operating in that route, because this problem is not the problem of the people, of our business people. It's a problem of the government. It's the government that did not take swift action on the Karuma Bridge. Then secondly, I will also advocate that the taxes that is being levied on the bus companies that operate in the routes of northern Uganda, at least should be reduced for this period of time when we are doing rehabilitation on Karuma ground, so that we, the common citizens, at least also we have that relief. Because now the extra 15,000 that I'm paying to access Kampala, to go back to Gulu, is being levied on me, on my own pocket. So I think government, because the issue is not for us, it's for the government. The government should at least now, at least have some reforms, tax reforms, and also give subsidies, especially on the fuel prices, to these business people operating on this on this route. Otherwise, we as citizens of Uganda, as leaders of this country, we should be proactive and identify issues before it turns into what? Into problem. Because I know this is affecting South Sudan, it's affecting DRC Congo, and also other neighboring countries that trade with Uganda. Automatically, I know companies in Kenya, companies in South Sudan, companies in Congo are suffering this. And remember, most of the goods that are traded in northern Uganda are perishables. So it means also the quality and losses. Our business people are incurring a lot of losses. So for me, I strongly advocate that we have a committee on the Karuma crisis to concentrate on the economic issue, on the economic issue, so that we don't burden our people in this period, because I know it might not only be 3 months, it might go to 6 months. For me, I feel this timeline of 3 months, we might not hit that timeline. We might have to have extra month. So it is at that point that our legislators, different stakeholders should advocate. We need to protect the people doing business. We need to protect the common man moving from Gulu to Kampala and Kampala to Gulu. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Francis, for that. It's rather powerful, and you raised very important points on that particular issue. Richard, earlier you talked about the travel through the game park and how it happens. Talk to me. How is the safety of that route? Because you have wild animals, and Honorable Komakech earlier talked about the terminology wild. If they're wild, in the end, they're wild. How is the safety through that route? But also, the fee is levied on every car that transits through that particular route. How much is it, first of all? But two, how does it affect the ease of traveling through that particular route to Kampala or back to home? Francis, you can hear me? Sorry, Richard. Richard seems to have gotten some technical challenges, but he will be joining us again, and we shall be hearing from him as he joins us in the next very few minutes. Honorable, you see, you listen to all this. We are discussing, excuse me, inflation, prices increasing, and my apologies on that. Honorable Komakech, look, inflation in the region, prices of goods go high. Francis just talked about what government could have done, maybe giving a fuel subsidy, maybe trying to establish a committee that tries to find a balance in this. And recently there were members of parliament from that particular part of the country having a quarrel with the management of the reserve, saying how people should not be tasked to pay because it is not a crisis of their making. And you earlier talked about the poor planning. When such situations emerge, how should government harmonize, one, from the standard point of the standing procedures we have, like the one of collecting fees from that particular game reserve, with trying to create a balance and a comfortable environment for citizens of this country to continue living, especially at a time like now, when the economy is not so good to most of the Ugandans. We know how things are quite tight. And again, we remember that government has to find money to make sure it runs the budget and the manifesto they have at a time when we don't have a lot of donor money to run our budget. Honorable.
Yes, thank you, Philip. I think on matters of the economy, we need to be very frugal on our decision making, because when you look at the revenue that is generated from the national park, and of course the the trade that we benefit from through crossing over that bridge, I think it's enormous. But given the challenge that has happened, we have very, very few options. And these options should be tagged on practical realities of the situation. So one, I think it is very important for the Ministry of Finance to coordinate with Ministry of Tourism and Ministry of Works on how they could adjust passengers that are in transit to the various destinations, but not tourists who are moving along that side. So it would be a very simple logic that if you are on a normal transit across the park, you should be allowed to go. You should be allowed to go. And let them calculate the revenue shortfalls that will be generated as a result of that for the period of 3 months that they are talking about. So these are things that government can subsidize because it is a people-centered government. Now, when we talk about fundamental rights, I mean, as citizens, our rights should be fundamental. These animals also have their rights, but as long as we are not killing them, but we conserve them regardless of the revenue losses, which look at COVID. We had the greatest loss during COVID. So for me, the 3 months should not make the earth and heavens fall. We could say, okay, given the gravity and understanding our level of negligence as government, we concede and say the 3 months, let our passengers in the north and those in the south have access that are moderated, not just open access where people are speeding at 90, 100, and no, it should be moderated with deep respect to how they cross those sides. And then those who would want to go through the other side, the more extreme, through Muliisa side, they can also go. So for me, the world is not coming to an end if we allowed passengers who are in transit to cross over. I don't think so, because this is a challenge that came not because of passengers. It became because of negligence by those who slept on their duties not to know that the bridge had expired over 10 years ago. Actually, they should be in prison. The Minister of Work should have lost his job. So many people should have lost their job. UNRWA alone should have. So I'm just seeing a situation where instead we are exalting them. We are making them appear so authoritative that they casually even announce for the close of these bridges. It's very, very painful. So for me, the biggest front line is the parliament. And I would love to advise my members of parliament. The venue for this discussion is not the park, is not Tangi Gate. It is on the floor of parliament, where you have processed data, properly filtered, and you put it on the floor of parliament to convince government. Because this would actually call for what I call the briefing of parliament, where you exercise the rules of procedure of parliament to allow the whole country to understand what is going on outside what the minister would always give in his ministerial statement, which are very calculated. But then our brothers and sisters are not invoking these rules of procedure. To be a member of parliament is a very powerful position. And I still see that we are only using 10% of the capacity of being a member of parliament. Because if you spoke on the issue, on the technical issues regarding the implications of negligence of the repair of Karuma Bridge and the alternative strategy of having a new bridge, I think that is where the debate should be. But right now, we are completely offside. We are now debating in a manner that is not going to help us, because we are now so conflictual. Members of parliament are now quarreling. Because you are not in parliament. You are quarreling in the roadside of the national park. That is not where we should be. We should be inside the house. The pressure must be put constructively to the government of Uganda and to the agencies that are responsible for this, because the constitution directs them, mandates them to do what they're supposed to do. Look at how people lost jobs in Kampala because the president sacked them. I expected the president to have sacked everybody in UNRWA and Minister Works because of this negligence. Because Karuma Bridge is not a joke. It's not a joke. So is it because the lives of people of northern Uganda do not matter? Is it so? Let's question that. Why is it something small can cause a very serious? The other day, just Katonga here, everybody was summoned, and everybody was spending the night in Katonga Bridge. So the one for northern Uganda must be taken as northern Uganda and just as Uganda. And this is a warning that those responsible in charge of their duties should see that Karumba Bridge must be repaired within the time that has been given. Nothing below, nothing beyond. Because we also need it. Our children need to go to school. So it has a lot of implication. It has implications
Thank
to
you
government.
so much.
Because if the whole North decides to feel bad, the results will be seen in the ballot box, which I do not need us to go to that extent. I need us to constructively resolve this matter as appropriately as possible.
So thank you, Honorable. And briefly, before I let you, do you think the issue of Karuma Bridge can be a matter, a serious matter for the forthcoming election? Is it subject to influence some of the views of the people? And like you mentioned earlier, the prioritization of the region in terms of infrastructure?
Yeah, because for me, I look at the time. We have been given 3 months, which ends by December 15th. If this bridge is not open before the new year, let me tell you, it will become an electoral issue. And I think
Thank you so
for
much.
those who are responsible for this, they should mark this very, very carefully, that the negligence and the slowness of the speed to do this work will impact on other people's responsibility. So therefore, that means that it is a 24-hour assignment. It's not just a 12-hour assignment. Lights must be provided. Everybody must be there in the bridge. And if it could be done before the 15th of December, well and good. But this is a warning.
So
I'm looking at this level. I do not want it to go the way I've said. But this is just to sound an alarm bell that let us be serious with what we are supposed to do as national duty.
Thank you so much, Honorable Lyandro Komakech, for that rather powerful submission. And we should continue the conversation here on Civic Space TV. We are discussing the closure of Karuma Bridge and its impact on the community, and of course, looking at how did we end here. And Honorable just told us that this is a situation that should have been addressed 10 years ago, 2013, 2014, because the bridge had been constructed to last at most 50 years. We've been living at the mercy of the Creator in that regard. And we continue with the conversation. Francis, I want to pick on you. What conversations are you having at council level, at division level, to see that people can be assisted as some of these challenges emerge in this particular regard? What are you talking about? And indeed, are you having interdivisional, inter-city conversations with other cities across the country to talk to them about how this is unfolding and how they can prevent or in the end address matters that arise in this particular fashion? Yes, Francis.
Yeah, thank you very much, moderator. On that, we survive on local revenue as local governments. So businesses are being affected. So this means that even the level of revenue collection automatically will go down. And I want to inform you that the level of revenue collection has gone down. The compliance by the businesses in Gulu have gone down because they are not making money, because they are readjusting themselves to the situation, and that is why I think it's very key for government to consider this issue, not in a political way, but in an economic way. As a division, we have sat, we have spoke about the challenges that we are facing in revenue collection. And one of the major challenges has been attributed to the closure of Karuma Bridge because it is affecting the economy of Gulu City. And that is why all councillors within Gulu City, around Gulu City, the Council of Nwaya, the Council of Amoro, the Council of Gulu District, they are all in agreement that we should start having flights. Uganda Airlines should start having flights to northern Uganda. That is using our Gulu airstrip, because we have all the infrastructure. What we need is just beating a few things, and having flights to northern Uganda or to Gulu itself will really boost the economy. We don't have issues with the passports, because if maybe we need a passport to travel, because we already have a passport center in Gulu that is furnished, that is functional.
I mean, it is an inland travel. You don't need a passport for an inland travel.
Pardon?
It is an in-country travel. You don't need a passport to travel within your country. You already have an ID, probably.
Yes. So we have what it takes. So I think the government should also use this as a way of boosting the economy of Gulu City, because if we have these flights coming in, automatically businesses will be boosted. But otherwise, as a division and as a city council, everyone is really being affected by this issue of Karuma Bridge. And we are tasking our legislators, our representatives in parliament, to speak the real issue, to speak the real solutions in the what? In the flow of parliament, but not be beating drums around, just to get popular so that they can be re-elected in 2026. This issue of Karuma Bridge is beyond election. It's not yes, it's a political issue, but most important, we as citizens, we as the people of Northern Uganda are interested in the economic perspective, because it's what makes us to survive. So the politicians should play their role, because we have given them the mandate. Yes, as local government, we are doing our best, but we don't have access to the national to the National Assembly. So through our representative, we are pushing them, especially to have Uganda Airlines start having flights in Gulu City, in Arua City, so that the economy of Northern Uganda also grows.
Thank you so much, Francis, for that rather powerful submission. And indeed, you emphasized the issue of having Uganda Airlines initiate flights to Northern Uganda. And you mentioned earlier that Gulu Airstrip has the longest runway about in the country, and that's a very good starting point to go by. Drasimaku, good we have you back. Talk to me. You heard the councillor there and what he says they have done in terms of having conversations and making people aware of the challenges. Do you think the local leadership is doing a good job in trying to talk to their people about this particular crisis and how they can go about it? But two, how much do you think the local community and indeed the leadership can do in trying to manage this particular situation? Yes, Richard.
Yes, thank you. I've been off, unfortunately, and I think a lot of discussion has gone without me listening to it. But I appreciate the submission of the councillors, the two recent speakers. I think they are spot on. First of all, this is 50 years ago, our forefathers, the statesmen of that time, they thought about constructing a bridge that should link this region. And now we are just thinking about repairing this bridge. So what is our plan for the next 50 years? That means having another bridge is actually very paramount. We should move in that direction. And secondly, the plans to develop these airports, like the Arua airfield, upgrading it into an international airport, has been there for some time. They started the work, but it's not moving so fast. And yet this was supposed to open the region to trade to the rest of Central Africa, Central African Republic, Eastern Congo, and the surrounding areas, Khartoum, and so forth. So, and this was entirely to boost commerce. That means after bringing in the goods on the planes, they are supposed to move on the roads. So you cannot have effective business when the bridges continue to be in this state. That's why I think more sensitization needs to be, and in terms of sensitization of the local people, I think what we can do now, what we can encourage now is to encourage the business community to cooperate among themselves in order to reduce that cost. For example, if you're in Arua, maybe instead of 5 people traveling, you can have the 5 people can give their money, maybe entrust into the hands of one person who travels, so that if you are to pay the extra cost, it will only be one person paying, but you buy the goods from Kampala, wherever, and then you bring them and give it to the other people so that you reduce that cost. But then I think we need to develop our alternative routes, like that route via Wanseko, where you use the ferries. I think maybe bigger ferries will be in that area, and then the number of trips needs to be increased so that you don't just rely on one expensive route. And the other side, even if you come maybe from Soroti and the other side to via northern Uganda, maybe Kitigumu, whatever, you need to cross via Ajumani to Moyo. So I think the other bridge there should also be worked on, La Ropi area, so that it fastens the movement of the people instead of relying on one bridge, and when it goes down, the entire country is affected in the process. So that's what I think our leaders should be planning for, and I think that's what should be encouraged. Our focus, our forecast, our planning for the coming years should be geared towards addressing those issues. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Richard, for that. Honorable, as we near the close of the conversation, what should be the role of local leaders, people in Gulu city, the leaders across the entire region in this whole scheme of things? Yes, Honorable. Honorable, do I have you? You can unmute and talk to us. You are muted. Looks like Honorable is having some challenges with on his side. Honorable, you can hear me? Yes, as Honorable comes back, our colleagues, unfortunately, our time is very much fast spent. We have just a few minutes to get out of here. I want to pick your final remarks about this particular crisis of the closure of Karuma Bridge and how it is affecting the community. In a minute or two, what do you want to say about this? Maybe what message you want to send to government or to parliament or to anyone in this country that should be in charge of making sure things are done better and the right way in that particular aspect? I'll start with you, Francis. Yes, your final remarks on the subject.
Yeah, thank you very much, moderator Muliisa. My brother from West Nile, Richard, and one of our renowned legislator who only in one term moved over 4 bills alone and had a number of motions, moved a number of motions in Parliament, and one of them was upgrading the Gulu University laboratory to handle the COVID situation. Remember, at that time we had to carry our tests from Gulu to Kampala, but through the motion moved by Honorable Lyandro, we had the multifunctional. We had the laboratory at Gulu University upgraded by what? By the Ministry of Health. So is a leader that is dear to us and someone who we respect so much, and we are missing his voice in the national parliament. We are missing his voice in the region, and we are missing his voice in the continent. So we really appreciate his efforts and the brilliant submissions he continues to contribute to this nation. My last remark is the Karuma Bridge issue is a big issue. And I want to agree with the Honorable Lyandro that if the 3 months elapse without finishing that renovation, automatically it will become an electoral issue. And it will make no sense for this current government to come and campaign to us, telling us about wealth creation. Because one of the ways of creating wealth is through one of the components is transportation services. And the president has always been reiterating his agenda on wealth creation. So this issue of Karuma, to me, I don't want it to turn political because it is purely an economic issue because it directly affects the livelihood. So the minister of transport should be put on notice that we want him to deliver. We want him to deliver that bridge, they renovate the bridge, and also discussions for a new bridge, an alternative bridge, should also now should start. We are the taxpayers, we pay these monies, and we expect efficiency and effectiveness in all government agencies. We don't want things to happen like it happened in Hitezi, where government waits until people are dead. People die and then they start reacting. Maybe if Karuma Bridge collapsed with the bus, maybe today you will not see the Honorable General Katumba Wamala in office. You might not see him, he would have been sacked. But because he has not killed anyone, it is not a big issue. So as a country, we need to start taking things seriously, not only for Northern Uganda, but for the entire region, for the entire country. Because I know in each and every region, we have serious issues. But all these issues are only addressed or are given attention when the disaster, when its effects are there, or when it has caused people to lose lives, or it has destroyed a number of things. So as a country, we need to rethink and start being problem solving oriented, so that we can we're not caught up with crisis. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Francis, for that strong and rich conclusion. Colleague Richard Drasimaku, your final remark.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Phillip, and the colleagues who have been on this discussion. I think it has been rich and valuable, and I've listened to it, and I think I've also learned a lot from the experiences, their knowledge. But what I can finally say is this breakdown of Karuma is a significant economic setback, which has been in the offing and which we should have better prepared for. But since it has happened, this will be an eye-opener, because there are also other bridges that are as old as Karuma, and we need to look at them. We should not wait for disaster to first strike and then we start waking up. So I think there's been a lot of emphasis. Government priority has been about infrastructure development, the roads, the railway, the whatever that has been talked about. Now this bridge has just broken down when power next to it has been switched on, commissioned. So I think it doesn't augur well that one set of infrastructures, you try to improve it, the other one which was there is breaking down. So we need a holistic approach and really have an inspection of all those old structures which have been there, so that we prepare for any eventual breakdowns. And secondly, the issue of the roads, as I had stated before, I think we need to improve on the alternative roads that connect the region, other parts of the country that connect West Nile, maybe via Albert Lake, and also via that Ajumani section, Moyo section. so that we cut down the cost and we have reliable, transport system. We don't just rely on one. And secondly, I spoke about the airports, and I think that should be the direction we move to. We encourage international trade, because now we are moving into middle income status, so we cannot just rely on domestic transactions among ourselves, and we need to open our markets so that if we have this minor, if we have some breakdown like this one of Karuma, then alternatives that are available are more. Maybe you have the railway which is functioning and the airports which are functioning, so that it cuts on the costs of traffic and the cost of doing business. So that is my thinking. But again, I would like to emphasize collaboration between business communities so that they avoid some of the challenges which come with some of these breakdowns. The problem is we do an unhealthy business competition. Instead of collaborating with the colleagues, we see each other as rivals. That's what I observe. So instead of having like 10 people traveling to Kampala and bring goods, you can entrust the money in the hands of maybe 2 people, so that if they charge you, say 20,000 extra, you only pay 50,000, instead of 10 people going and they pay 250 or more.
Thank you.
Yeah, so that's my thinking, and I think if we move in that direction, we shall realize a faster transformation rather than stagnation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Richard Drasimaku, for that conclusion. And Honorable, are you here? Last word on the show. What can we take away from this conversation, and indeed, what should we look out for the future?
The most important thing we need to take on is, one, we take northern Uganda as a very strategic region for the economy of Uganda, and therefore the development is very imperative for everybody, and it makes the general economy to function. Two, I think Musician Falls as a national park is very strategic for us, and therefore we also need to make sure that it is conserved well. It is so surprising that it was in 1864 that Samuel Becker identified Musician Falls when he was coming towards Bunyoro. And he decided that it should be named in memory of the president of the Royal Geographical Society, Mr. Roderick Musician in the UK, and that became the name. This park is very old. From 1864, when it was discovered, it became a conservation area in 1926. And it later on, after 26 years, it became the national park in 1952. So Musician Falls is very important at a strategic level for tourist attraction and revenue. Then our road to northern Uganda through Karuma Bridge is the shortest if we are to use. And it is also very strategic for our economy. So it is about balancing the importance. What I would see as a take-home assignment is, one, that all our voices should be converging to our leaders in parliament. Now that we are in a budget cycle, we would want in this coming budget to begin putting in place new funding for a new bridge. There are two types of bridges in the world that are very strategic. There's what we call the arc bridge. The arc bridge is now kind of the modern way of how bridges are done. If you travel globally, you see that those are very strategic bridges. There's the arc bridge, there's the cable-stayed bridge. Now, those are the modern bridges that engineers of the contemporary times should be talking about. We would not want to see a situation where government puts money for a bridge and then they come out with another similar, it is like a road crossing bridge. Road crossing bridges are now meant for animals. When you go to the park, actually we should have had around 4 or 5 road crossing bridges which are guarded, that the wildlife can use for crossing on both sides of the Musician Falls. But this is not there. So So for me, that is my take. We need a budgetary line that should start now and should sail through for 3 or 4 years, so that we have an international bridge that is very, very keen to generating revenues at a national level, at a regional level, and at a subcontinental level. Because if Ethiopia becomes part of Uganda, part of East Africa, Central African Republic becomes part of Eastern Africa, then this bridge should not just be a local bridge the way it is. It is just like a road crossing bridge. It is embarrassing for a country that runs the government. So for me, that is my take. Members of parliament should up their game, and the means of work should be put on the wall on the deadline they have given us. There's nothing like going beyond that deadline, because we are paying. We have lost a lot. This is sacrifice for this time of the 3 months. It's very big sacrifice. So for me, that is my take. All the answers are in parliament.
Thank you so much, Honorable Lyandro Komakech, for those amazing views. And indeed, looking through a series of the recommendations you people give us, one of them is, first of all, having a good planning mechanism that looks at all these things prior to and even after, and how we can manage them, but also looking at collaboration between the business community, the reinstatement of air transport from the central to northern Uganda. Then someone talked about the subsidies, but also setting aside a budget for a new bridge, and indeed making sure that all these issues are settled from Parliament, because this is the highest office that should be debating the best interest of the citizen. Once again, Honorable Lyandro Komakech, former MP from Gulu Municipality, thank you so much for joining us and for the amazing thoughts you share with us today on this conversation. Mr. Francis Otim, City Division Councillor, Kirombe Ward, that is Bardege Layibi City Division in Gulu. Thank you so much for the views and for joining us today. And indeed, Richard Drasimaku, journalist with Chigezi News, thank you so much for your views and for making time to join the conversation. And indeed, you, our viewers, we appreciate you so much for making time for Community Voices on Civic Space TV. Special thanks to the technical team that makes sure all this is together, and special thanks to the Center for Constitutional Governance for always making sure we achieve and get this done and our voices reach where they have to reach, so that those points of concern to us are heard and something is done about them to improve the quality and the standard of living of us, the citizens of this country, but also to make us better citizens of the world. I am Phillip, Muliisa, and I shall see you next time.